Well, so it's come to this. The weekly Week in Review weekly show talking about what's happened in the last week has been canceled. Well, postponed, put on hiatus. What can I say? It wasn't getting that many hits, and if I'm going to make videos, I want to at least make videos that people are interested in. And that made me think about the subject of today's video. The way things that are cookie cutter work. When you do something different and you try to do, oh, I don't know, a weekly update show, hey, doesn't work. So that is an interesting jumping off point, and it leads directly into why so many things in the entertainment industry have become cookie cutter. What I mean by that is they repeat the plot or images or situations, or heck, they're just chock full of member berries. What can I say? It happens across all studios these days. So many movies, so much content is based on our nostalgia of the original movies from 20 or 30 years ago. Sometimes retelling the exact plots, sometimes dropping in characters or situations we're familiar with in order to jog our memory and make us feel happy about what we're seeing. Recently, we had the Book of Boba Fett on Disney Plus, which finally gave us Luke Skywalker, or at least a CGI model of him, training a new young Jedi. This is what, personally, I had been waiting to see for years, and when we didn't get this in the new Star Wars movies, it was disappointing. We got some glimpses of Luke and his new Jedi Academy, but basically mostly burning down, and, a couple flashbacks here and there of him training his sister and his new group of Padawans, etc. But growing up with Star Wars, what I always assumed sequels would be Luke Skywalker, Jedi Master, training an entirely new generation, but doing it from the lessons he learned, like the fact that his faith in his friends was what saved him. So connections and emotional connections are good, perhaps. And I wanted to see Luke do something different. Oh, I don't know, like use a lightsaber battling giant dragon snake monsters. I mean, we've seen this in Star Wars. We know that there are giant kind of, dinosaur type monsters. Why is it that all of the Star Wars movies have to basically be, the same? We got stormtroopers. We're never going to get Luke Skywalker riding around on a dinosaur with a lightsaber, fighting, insect monsters from Mars. The idea of a group of new Jedi that are trained by him, yes, I know this is, from a Dark Horse comic. I know what this image is, but of the Old Republic. That's not important. The point is, as fans, not just us, the super fans, but a mass amount of, the population fears change. It's very much like kind of the Futurama execubots, where putting out content, putting out toy lines that they know will work because there's a built-in audience is a safe bet. And I think that it often gets overlooked how much of a bet almost all content and all toy lines are for the companies that put them out. So let's just go back to Star Wars for a second as an example. Most fans consider The Empire Strikes Back the greatest Star Wars movie. And when it came out in 1980, obviously people were extremely excited because Star Wars, the original 77 movie, was so mind-blowingly different and break frame that more Star Wars surely would be even better and would be the greatest, sequel ever made. It kind of was. But at the time, well, while of course, the few critics that did say it was amazing got splashed all over the actual official advertisements, the reviews of the film, very mediocre. If you go back and you look at the way that reviewers at the time looked at, saw Empire, they were just like, this is okay, it's different. And the idea that the fact that it had an open-ended ending, like it didn't have a definitive ending, there was no, riding into the sunset, and, the bad guy had been vanquished, it left a lot of people feeling like Empire wasn't a very good sequel. It just didn't have that heart and feel of Star Wars, and they didn't like the idea of something being different. They wanted more of the same. And this is a lesson that's never gone away, both from Hollywood and from the toy industry. producing a movie that had a very ambiguous ending was not well received at the time. Now we look at it and we're like, oh, Empire was like dark, and it was like, that was what was so great about it. The whole copy, paste, repeat that has sort of, I don't want to say infected the movie industry, but it's led it as a trend, has absolutely trickled down to the toy industry as well. All the time in the comment section on social media, I get a lot of people asking, why we don't get more original toy lines nowadays, the way we did in the 80s, where we got things that we'd never heard of before made as toys. Nowadays, we tend to get, He-Man, 10.0, if you will, like yet another iteration of the same product that we've had. Where is the brand new hero or heroine that we've never heard of before? Why are we getting more Transformers, more He-Man? And it's because of the outstandingly huge failure rate. We have such sort of not a biased perspective, but I guess a cloudy perspective, because we treasure the toys we have, forgetting that 9 out of 10 toy lines fail. And they don't just fail, they fail miserably, meaning they cost the companies and the retailers huge amounts of money. I mean, where are the people that are fans of Jack's The Last Kids on Earth line? Exactly, I know, crickets, right? We spend so much time looking at things like Ninja Turtles and DC and WWE and Transformers that it's so easy to forget how many toy lines out there have failed and have never come back with, collector edition versions playing into our nostalgia, which is the exact same emotional path as these movies that are hitting the same beats. And when movie studios are taking bets, so are toy companies. And producing a brand new toy line is so much more of a wild bet than relying on older IP that has a built-in audience and being able to just produce more. Look at Will Smith. He's a perfect example of this as a movie star. So many of his films have done incredibly well, but he has also had his fair share of flops. I'm looking at you, Wild Wild West. All right, come on, who doesn't love Robot Tarantulas? That movie has, I think, aged better. But anyway, it did get to the point that Will Smith became an actor that movie studios would bet on because, most of his films did very, very, very well. And the occasional flop was made up by the revenue from the hits. So that was something that was very comfortable for them to bet on. And likewise, this is why we see major toy companies constantly putting out the same stuff versus taking a bet on newer, unheard of properties that they could invent, properties they could, purchase, bring inventors in. The next big thing in toys. We're all waiting for it, and what's holding it up is the failure rate. There are so many product lines that fail, and even if a product line is tied into success, it's not a guaranteed hit. Again, just look at how Empire was received back in the day. And to kind of wrap this up, one of the things that I heard over and over again in my time in the toy industry was there was a time when the major toy companies felt that there was no new IP possible. You couldn't make more. And then Ben 10 came along, and that was a very groundbreaking toy line. It was the first new toy line in years, if not decades. And it made a lot of toy executives scratch their heads because they really did think before Ben 10 that there was no point in investing in new toy IP. So, will there be new experiments in the toy industry and in the movie industry? Maybe, but it's much easier to shut the door on something that's not working and get out with your tail between your legs. So, Toy Week Weekly at the end of the week, we liked you while you lasted. I hope you enjoyed this video, and it was a good change from what we've had on the past few Sundays. Let me know what you think. What other topics would you like to see covered? Leave them in the comments below, and I always appreciate shares, likes, subscriptions, all that. It helps the algorithm. Thanks for watching.